Hello everyone, after entirely too much time, I'm finally back here at one of my favorite places in Southern California, Buttonwillow Raceway Park, to finally shake down Project Civic SI on these new Godspeed Coilovers. I have fresh tires, a fresh racing alignment, and hopefully some good open track time today. Let's see how fast we can go. Session any track day is always going to be a mixed bag. On the pros, the weather is cooler. It's right 78 degrees right now. The high is going to be about 100 later today. That will obviously impact acceleration of the car later on as the day goes on. The track is also very green though, and what that means is a lot of dust and dirt and things like that, but people are more likely to spin out, which is absolutely the case. Several cars spun out, flung off a bunch of dirt on track. It was kind of a mess. And more than that is that my confidence was really shaken in the car. Hopefully it came out on the video, but there were a few very disconcerting clunking sounds coming from the front end of the car whenever I bounced over the curbing, which at Buttonwillow is pretty much a must-do about half the track. I heard it at least once on both sides of the car, the right side and then a few corners later on the left side. I'm not sure if it's a function of maybe the StopTech BBK, because my rotors are really noisy, or if it's a function of the Godspeed coilovers. But once the car cools down, I'm going to jack this thing up, inspect the front end, make sure everything's okay. The car, I guess, drove okay. I'm a bit disappointed in the Godspeeds. I know they're a cheap coilover and they're kind of showing that base budget price point. The dampers just don't seem to be doing all that much. But I'm going to try adjusting them front and rear and seeing if that helps at all. And hopefully if the clunking goes away and the car holds up, we can start going faster, because that was just a 209 lap time, which is pretty miserable. It's pretty, like, that's basically what I ran when the car was bone stock. Sure, there's a lot of traffic and I was kind of shaking the car down and feeling it out, but that's pretty disappointing if I'm entirely honest with you. I'm hoping we can get a lot more out of it. I was really looking for like a 202 to a 203 today, but we'll see what's possible as the day goes on. Fortunately, I think I found the cause of the clunking. It's actually this lower perch that locks in the shock height. See how it came loose? When I jacked the car up and took the wheel up, I found it was loose like this. I think it's where my noise was coming from. The shock was moving around a little bit, like that. And when you bounce over curbing, unload it and load it up really fast, it'll clunk. So I'm gonna crank this guy down again and hopefully we're good to go. second session ended up being a bit better. I knocked about 2.5 seconds off my lap times and went down to a 2:06.5, which is still 2.5 seconds slower than I was the last time I was here, but it's also getting hot. It's already 85 degrees outside, and really, I'm just making a lot of mistakes. I'm still getting used to the way these Godspeeds drive. Turning up the dampers firmer definitely helped, but the car is still incredibly bouncy. So when I'm landing, you know, jumping over bus stop and things like that, the car is really hopping a lot and compromising a lot of time because it's compromising traction, the ability to put down what limited power I do have. So definitely need to learn the setup more. I'm gonna keep turning the shocks up even more and hope it settles the car down a little bit and just really clean up my laps, because I'm still cutting certain corners too early in certain spots. I'm over braking, I'm under braking, and I keep having this issue with the front brake pads going in full ice mode. Basically, there's like no stopping power. The brake pedal is rock hard and the brakes are in theory working, but either the ABS or something up front isn't playing nice and the car just would not slow down. I ended up going off track a few times because of it. Hopefully there's still room for improvement. It's gonna get about 15 degrees hotter today, but hopefully I'll get more open track, because it's also been a problem, and hopefully we can kind of clean this up and hopefully go faster. The third session didn't go much better. I was still fighting brake issues with the car. I had a couple random ice mode moments where, again, the brake pedal is firm, but you push the pedal down, there's just no stopping force. The car just goes straight forward. I went off track a few times, which was very annoying. And then, for whatever reason, the Godspeed coilovers got way worse. I turned them up 3 more clicks as I've been doing each session, and the front end has developed a terrible wheel hop coming out of any sort of right-hand corner. The inside wheel, even with the factory limited slip differential, would get terrible wheel hop, even in second and third gear, where it's not getting wheel spin necessarily, but that shock just cannot control the motion of the wheel as it goes over any sort of bump while turning, and the car just feels horrible. It feels like the engine is trying to rip itself out of the front of the car. Unfortunately, my lap times suffered. It's now in the mid-90s at this point. The car was not driving great. I did a bunch of 207 laps in a row and just couldn't put anything good together. things aren't looking good so far. This is pretty disappointing. Unfortunately, sessions 4 and 5 ended up being a complete disaster. Between a combination of it being extremely hot outside, temperatures were about 100 degrees at that point, pavement temperatures were absolutely brutal. You can see the heat rising off the pavement, the braking issues which kept popping up. The ABS was not playing nice. Sometimes I'd have brakes, sometimes I wouldn't. The Godspeed dampers definitely not being what I was expecting. Things just didn't go well. My lap times kept getting slower and slower and slower until eventually I just gave up. I couldn't put a single clean lap together, even if it was incredibly slow. I just kept having problems with people getting in the way, or issues with the car popping up, or me just making mistakes. My best time ended up being a 206, I think 206.1, which is a full 2 seconds slower than the last time I was there, despite buying brand new tires and putting the Godspeed coilovers on. So definitely a very disappointing showing. There's no redemption arc on this episode, unfortunately. The Godspeeds ended up being a very big disappointment. My expectations were not high. I know they are a budget coilover, but I've heard of several people using these with great success, and honestly I have no idea how they're doing it, because these things drive like absolute garbage on the racetrack. I was able to at least calm down some of the insane wheel hop issues I was having in the tighter corners of the track by turning down the front dampers 2 clicks and turning the rear dampers up 3 more clicks to try and balance the car out. But the car just does not drive nice on the racetrack. It's really edgy and nervous, and you can tell with my steering inputs I'm never quite sure what the car is going to do, because these dampers are just causing the car to hop and jiggle like this all over the place. I have the GoPro smoothing set on, so it doesn't look nearly as violent in the cabin, but I'm just getting shaken around by these Godspeed coilovers. It's like the shocks are just literally doing nothing. So definitely very disappointing in that regard. The car is going to sit here in the garage for a couple weeks as I fix a few things. In the video I mentioned that my peak speeds were down. Now part of that is definitely due to heat. It was very hot and the engine is making a lot less power. But compared to when I ran the 204 lap earlier this year, the car was down about 5 miles per hour of peak speed in the track, which is a huge margin, and you could feel it through the entire lap where the car was just a total dog. I mean, a stock K20 is not a particularly impressive engine, especially in a car this big and heavy, but it was really disappointing the way the car drove and accelerated. Definitely need to sort that out. I realized part of that is that at that last event at Button Willow, at the very end, I got way too aggressive driving the car. I ended up breaking all the fender liners and what front under tray this car does come with from the factory. I broke all that stuff. And it turns out that does actually compromise the aerodynamics of the car. It would also explain why the car was starting to overheat intermittently, just because obviously those fender liners and the front engine under tray help evacuate air out of the engine bay, out and under, and not having those means that hot air just trapped in the bay, and explains why the engine was starting to overheat, why I was losing power, and ultimately why top speeds were down. Because on a car that is so power limited, every fraction of advantage you can gain from aerodynamics is crucial, and not having those factory underbody panels was definitely slowing me down. Then there was the ABS issue. I ended up running the codes on that. I have a bad wheel speed sensor, which would explain why as soon as I left the track, my dashboard went full Christmas tree, and explained all the braking issues I was having with the car. You know, why I'd go into crazy ice mode, why my ABS would work, sometimes it wouldn't work, and why the car was just so unpredictable under braking. So unfortunately, there's no happy ending to this episode. Coilovers at a surface level appear to have made my car slower, which is actually shocking. And I'll talk more about that in the future as I really kind of learn more about these Godspeed dampers and kind of how to set the car up properly. But I now have a list of things to fix on this car and to sort out. So in the next episode of Project Civic SI, I'm going to fix everything that costs me precious track time with this car, and then we're going to go back to the track and hopefully actually go faster as I continue to push what a stock K20 can do, And then eventually we're gonna see what a not so stock K20 can do with this thing, but that is in the future and this is now. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you made it to the end. Hopefully you find these videos entertaining or helpful for you if you're interested in these cars. It's an interesting platform, but with a lot of unique challenges. As always, guys, my name is Jake Stump. You've been watching Drive, Brake, Fix, Repeat. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time where I go do more fun things with cars. Bye.